We navigate life operating on a comforting assumption. We believe we are the authors of our actions, driven by independent reason and distinct preferences. But what if the decisions you made today, what to buy, who to trust, what to fear, were the predictable outputs of an invisible, highly structured system? The evidence points to a different reality. The authentic self is a stabilization of competing signals, masking a multi-layered architecture of conditioning that began building itself before you could even speak. In the late 19th century, Ivan Pavlov demonstrated that physiological reflexes are often artifacts of prior history. By pairing a neutral stimulus with a biological reward, responses that appear natural can be hardwired into an organism's behavior. Voluntary behaviors are shaped by consequences. Organisms repeat actions yielding reward. But the most durable behaviors are forged when rewards arrive at unpredictable intervals. This variable reinforcement keeps the brain's dopaminergic system in perpetual expectation, driving intense behavioral loops. This programming is physically encoded through neuroplasticity. During critical developmental windows, the brain organizes its neural architecture based on the statistics of its environment. This organizes your threat detection and default emotional responses long before you have the language to describe them. Your foundational reward and survival systems are biological hardware, programmed by the microtransactions of your early environment. We expand this biological base through habitus, a system of durable dispositions we absorb from our social milieu. Because we learn these norms through imitation rather than instruction, we experience our posture, speech, and aesthetic preferences as natural expressions of our character. Formal education accelerates this through the hidden curriculum. Schools condition students to accept that time belongs to institutions, that compliance is a virtue, and that self-worth is a measurable output validated by external evaluation. Rituals lock these institutional norms into our somatic memory. By pairing intense emotion with collective physical action, rituals anchor group values into the body, making nonconformity feel like an existential threat. Social conditioning succeeds by manufacturing the internal voice you mistake for your own conscience. This architecture hardens into what we call personality. Traits like self-sufficiency or hypersensitivity to others' needs are often survival strategies developed in early caregiving environments. Over time, we forget these were adaptations and begin to experience them as our authentic nature. Today, these conditioned vulnerabilities are exploited on a global scale by the digital attention economy. Algorithms use variable reinforcement to capture attention, creating filter bubbles that systematically remove disconfirming evidence. These systems shape belief frameworks by ensuring the information you see always mirrors the beliefs you already hold. Automated systems now optimize human attention for profit, continuously conditioning our perception of reality without our awareness. Neurologically, social rejection activates the same circuits as physical injury, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. Because of this overlap, the brain treats a challenge to your identity with the same survival urgency as a physical threat. Protecting a belief becomes a reflex of literal self-preservation. This reflex protects the engineering of desire. We acquire our aspirations through mimicry, learning what to want by observing what others celebrate. We mistake these planted social goals for our own authentic longings. The modern experience of the free choice-making consumer is itself a highly specific conditioned subjectivity. A conditioning system is most successful when the subject fiercely defends their own constraints, believing them to be the ultimate expression of freedom. If the self is constructed through these layers, the idea of an unconditioned, pure self is a myth. There is no biological core that exists independently of its history. However, we can develop metacognitive capacity, the ability to observe our own mental processes rather than being entirely governed by them. Deconditioning occurs by inserting a microscopic wedge of awareness between a conditioned trigger and the automatic response. This gap creates the possibility of a choice that is not simply the product of your history. Autonomy consists of the sober, conscious management of the architecture you inhabit. When conditioning is successfully observed and interrupted, we find the residue, the foundational capacities that conditioning appropriates but does not create. What remains is a set of indeterminate potentials: generative curiosity, relational attunement, and the drive to make life coherent through narrative. The self functions as a performance, an ongoing, dynamic process rather than a static object you possess. If this is true, then who are you?